And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome everyone to Alaska Weather on this Veterans Day, Tuesday, November 11th, 2025. And in the Alaska weather-related headlines, still a number of interesting things going on. We have the Gulf low that'll be weakening as it pulls westward off the Kenai coast and begins to dissipate tomorrow into tomorrow night. But the interior is seeing some very cold sub-zero morning low temperatures. In fact, Tok this morning was down to 20 below, and once again there will be some of the normally cold spots that cold again come Wednesday morning. But of real interest is we are now anticipating a severe G4 geomagnetic storm conditions that could push aurora well down into the mid-latitudes of the lower 48, and I'll talk more about that in just a second. We're still watching the potential for a deep, windy, low-pressure system that's going to come out of the North Pacific, cross the Aleutians, and then up into the Bering Sea this weekend. So stay tuned to later forecast. As of right now, it looks like the bulk of it's going to stay more out toward the central Bering Aleutians, but there'll still be some wind up along the southwest coast. So we will, as I said, be keeping a close eye on that over the next 2-3 days as that event draws closer. But overall, an active storm track will be coming up into the Gulf, especially the latter half of next week leading up to Thanksgiving. And it'll be interesting to see if any more snow falls in areas of south central, but that's where the bulk of the action will be across the Gulf Coast into the Panhandle coming up here as we get past mid-month and approach Thanksgiving. A quick check of a few of the FAA webcams this Tuesday afternoon. Point Lay, broken cloud cover looking southwest. You can see the low sun angle there now that we're approaching a little more than a month away from winter solstice. 12 degrees. Winds are going to be picking up along and off the Lisburn Peninsula as we get into Thursday night and Friday, so be aware of that offshore flow. And then Dutch Harbor, overcast 44. You're going to be seeing the winds pick up with some rain moving in this evening and for this Tuesday night as a gusty front pushes up through your area. And then Tok this morning, 20 below zero as of 2 o'clock in the afternoon, only 5 above. You have another clear night coming up, and the northern lights certainly could be visible. And then Haines, light rain, fog 43, areas above Haines and Skagway toward Haines Custom, Chilkat, and on up toward Chilkoot and White Pass there. There was some moderate to locally heavier snow last night into this morning, but that's winding down. But here's the interesting news. A series of coronal mass ejections from the sun, at least 3 of them. And earlier this morning, a major solar flare, an X-class solar flare, a 5 X-class solar flare, that's pretty good, arriving through the midweek period. And the first of them is just starting to arrive right now, this Tuesday afternoon. I just took a look at some of the solar data there. The solar wind has jumped up now to almost 650 kilometers per second. That's pretty good since it was only down around 400 or so earlier. And there's been a rain of protons come in that has caused a ground level event indicating that this is a potent system. So severe, maybe even extreme geomagnetic storm possible. That's going to mean bright enhanced auroras extending down at least into the mid-latitudes of the lower 48. So here in Alaska, the aurora should be dancing pretty good here during the midweek period between now and into Thursday morning. So just kind of keep an eye on the sky if you're in a clear spot away from city lights. And the only downside of when you start getting into the severe and extreme geomagnetic storms, it generates strong ground currents that can impact power grids and pipelines because it sets up those currents that you don't want there. High frequency radio blackouts and then some problems with GPS. So that is one of the consequences when you have a more significant geomagnetic storm. But as far as weather storms, we have no watch warnings or advisories on the state map as of this mid-afternoon Tuesday, so that is good news. And looking at the satellite imagery, you can see that curl in the clouds. There's a last bit of low pressure there around Yakutat Bay. And low pressure in general is just going to kind of pull westward and weaken as we go into Wednesday. Meanwhile, here is the front working its way across from the central into the eastern Aleutians. There'll be some showers and gusty winds with that. The front will just kind of stall out and elongate here along the southwest coast, but weaken as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. But there could be some gustier winds coming up into Kuskokwim Bay from the southeast and south as we go through Wednesday into Wednesday evening. And looking at the weather map late this Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning, here's the low pressure pulling back toward the western Gulf. One other piece lifting eastward into northwest Canada, but the system is winding down. There's a stronger little low situated to the southwest of Vancouver Island and off of Washington state coastline. That feature is going to tend to stay down this way. Here comes the front through the eastern Aleutians into the Alaska Peninsula later tonight, early Wednesday. And then by Wednesday afternoon, a little wave of low pressure develops along the front near Nunavik Island, so that could enhance the southeast to south winds, especially along this western side of Kuskokwim Bay. Maybe elevating the water levels a bit there, but not anything too serious. And then the one low just weakening over the Gulf. We continue to see weak high pressure over the northeastern mainland centered along the Alcan border. So any areas that have clearing the next couple of nights, not only do you have the opportunity to see the northern lights, you will also have temperatures that will likely drop below zero in those normally cold spots. Come Thursday afternoon, another kind of frontal system trough elongates out over the Bering with a secondary low just southeast of the eastern Aleutians and the Alaska Peninsula, with another front extending eastward into the North Pacific south of the Gulf. And then come Friday, that feature will try to spin up a little stronger 980 millibar low along and south of the Alaska Peninsula. And then there's another low out here approaching the western Aleutians. But the low we're talking about for the weekend, a stronger windy low, it's going to be potentially below 950 millibars, is still way down in the North Pacific. And it's slated to come up here into the central Aleutians as we go into Saturday and Sunday up into the Bering. So we'll keep a close eye on that system to see exactly what track it may take. But for right now, the last few days, it's indicated that it's going to kind of come up across the Aleutians into the lower half of the Bering and then just kind of pinwheel back around as it weakens. But again, things can change because that's still a bit of ways. But notice the lows Wednesday morning here in the interior, east central interior. Low temperatures between 5 and 15 below common. Some of the normally cold spots could easily be down around 20 below. And then out here through the Panhandle, generally low temperatures with lingering cloud cover and the flow that's going to keep temperatures above freezing, mid-upper 30s. Anchorage Bowl will get down into the teens, some single digits along the Chugach up toward Talkeetna. And then along the southwest coast, lows in the 20s, 25 there at Savunga. And coming down toward Kipnik as we trail out along the Alaska Peninsula with that front, lows will stay generally above 40 degrees. For Wednesday afternoon, some temperatures may not get above zero in through the east central interior. Otherwise, single digits above zero, fairly common. Highs in the 40s in the Panhandle, especially the western and southern areas and inner channels. Highs only in the lower, maybe mid-20s, Anchorage at best. As we get down along the Alaska Peninsula, temperatures are going to rise up into the mid-40s with that front weakening and pivoting this way. And then on Thursday morning, again, lows below zero across much of the central, eastern, northern interior. Some of the normally cold spots, 15, 20 below. And then out here for the Panhandle, some temperatures below freezing in the north. Even down toward Wrangell, Petersburg could be at or a bit below freezing. And then looking across south central, many lows in the teens, some single digits. You got to get down along the Alaska Peninsula and readings will stay at or above 40 for morning lows. And then for Thursday afternoon, we find temperatures still lower mid-40s for the outer coast of the Panhandle. Only in the 30s now, just above freezing, Skagway and Juneau. As we go out here through the eastern interior along the Alcan border, Brooks Range, up along the middle upper Yukon River, as well as the Tanana, highs only in the single digits. As you get out along Kuskokwim Bay, Makoriak, maybe a high around 30, so just a bit below freezing. And then temperatures should generally be in the low 40s, around 41, 42 from Kodiak City, extending all the way down along the Aleutian chain. But here's what I want to point out again. I talked about the fact we're going to have a stormier weather pattern coming up into the Gulf as we get past mid-month, especially the middle of next week leading up until Thanksgiving. There's going to be a number of systems coming in bringing moisture and wind along the Gulf Coast into the Panhandle. Well, guess what? When you have above normal temperatures, especially as we get further along in November or into December, the air is still cold enough over the mainland that this could indicate potential for some heavier snowfall in some areas if you can get that moisture to pull back into the colder air. But as of now, we are looking with the storm track coming up into the Gulf to keep temperatures above normal along the Gulf Coast and extending inland across at least the southeastern half or 2/3 of the mainland, including the Kodiak Island down along the Alaska Peninsula. And here's the telltale thing. You got above normal precipitation centered on Anchorage along and south, the south slopes of the Alaska Range, Copper River Basin, Talkeetna Mountains, Chugach Mountains, Kenai Mountains. This area could see some heavier snowfall depending on how the moisture gets pulled back from some of these lows that come up into the Gulf. So it could be an interesting time frame for some additional snowfall, especially in south central parts of the state as we get past mid-month leading up to Thanksgiving.